Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, I am Miss DIRF. I am a trainee teacher from the UK. Today's video will be about NQT interview questions. I was fortunate enough to have my interview earlier on in the year in January, so I experienced the whole interview process quite early on. So today's video is going to be giving you some tips, some potential questions that they may ask you, and just a kind of overview of what my interview was like. If you aren't already, please go and hit the subscribe button down below. It would really help me out, and go and hit the like button as well. So let's get on into the video. So I have my notebook here with me with all the potential questions that you may get asked and the questions that I was asked. And I'm going to try and explain some of my answers to those questions as well. So the first one was, why do you want to be a teacher? In this question, you basically want to summarise why you want to be a teacher. You also want to point out that it's been your first choice. Even if it wasn't your first choice career, you want to make sure that you reiterate that it is your first choice career, that it's not your plan B option, and that it's definitely what you want to do. When I was asked this question, I spoke about a teacher who had inspired me throughout my education, and I said how she made me feel, how she allowed me to be me and experience things that I probably wasn't necessarily good at, but she made me believe that I could be anything that I wanted to be. And I related why I wanted to be a teacher back to that specific teacher. So think about your reasons for wanting to do teaching. Were you inspired by another teacher? Is it something that you've always wanted to do since you were younger? Really have a good think about why you're going into teaching, because trust me, teaching is not a job that you go in for the pay. So there must be a reason as to why you want to go into it. My second question was, why our school? So the school that I applied for and have secured my NQT post is a faith school, and to be perfectly honest with you, had I not got that job, I still would have wanted to apply for another faith school anyway, because I myself went to Church of England primary school and secondary school and was brought up in a Christian household. Therefore, I carry certain Christian values and would like to teach in a Christian-based school. So for me, it was quite easy to say that I wanted to work in a Church of England school based on those reasons. I also linked it back into school specifics, in the sense of my school has certain values that they follow, that all the children know throughout the school, and I really liked those values as well. I've worked in other Church of England schools before where they followed a similar sort of process, and I really enjoy that style of teaching. And I do think that primary schools, particularly Church of England primary schools, like to follow certain morals and have certain ethos that is really, really nice. So those were my reasons for wanting to be there. I also linked it back into it being a community as well. The school that I was fortunately on placement on had a lovely community. Everybody was really welcoming. I liked the area that it was in. I was also aware of the struggles and restrictions that are within that area, but it was something that I was prepared to do. So I'd done my research into the school as to why I would want to work there anyway, which really helped me out. The third question was, what qualities do you have which would make you an effective teacher? So again, I linked back to other teachers that I'd seen teach before doing my course, other teachers that I've seen during my course, and I made reference to being versatile, adaptable, resilient. These are all qualities that within the classroom I felt like you definitely need to possess. It's easy enough to plan a lesson, but it doesn't always go to plan. There's always a child that doesn't necessarily understand what you want them to do. You have to be able to adapt well to what they're saying. You may have planned for them to say a certain thing and they may not have come out with that. So you've got to adapt, you've got to change, you've got to be versatile. So I think those are key aspects of what an effective teacher is. I also think that a teacher needs to be passionate and caring and really want what's best for the children in their class. There's no point in, again, going into this job thinking that you're going to get paid a ridiculous amount, because you're not. And you really do go into this job for the children. It's not for anybody else. You're going into it because you want to educate young minds and future generations. So I spoke about that. I also spoke about my personal qualities in this one. So I personally enjoy group sports. I play netball. So I said that I'm an effective teacher is somebody that is good in group situations, that can, rally the team as it is and show good leadership skills as well. So those are the sorts of things that you want to link into as well. My next question, which is going to be in any interview that has got anything to do with the children, are your safeguarding questions. So I think I was presented with, what would you do if a child disclosed a safeguarding concern to you? I would say that before you go to your interview, you need to read the school's safeguarding policy, because different schools have different procedures. However, they generally follow a certain structure, which is you listen to the child, you don't ask them any leading questions, you don't make promises to them in the sense of, you don't say to them that you're not going to talk to anybody else about it. You need to make it clear that if I feel that this is something that is really concerning or will affect your safety, I may have to pass this on. So you need to make that clear from the get-go. You report to your DSL. Those of you who don't know what DSL means, that's your designated safeguarding lead, and you fill in the appropriate form. So I know in some schools they have a green form, some schools they have a red form. You fill in the form appropriately, and you basically just follow your school's policy. So before you go to any interview, I would say make sure you read the school's safeguarding policy, because they may have specific things that they want you to follow within their policy. The next question was about behaviour management. So about what strategies you would use. Again, I would refer to your school's behaviour policy, because different schools have different ways of managing behaviour. So, for example, some schools use dojos as a reward scheme. Some schools use house points as a reward scheme. Some schools like to use stickers. Some schools like to use have treat boxes or incentive boxes or golden time, things like that. So those are ways of rewarding positive behaviour, or being good to be green. Those are ways of rewarding positive behaviour. But in terms of, you've got a difficult child in the class, they're disrupting the class, what procedures do you follow there? So in some schools, they have a good to be green system where you give them a warning for their behaviour. You say, this is not acceptable behaviour. This is a warning now. If I see you doing it again, your card will be changed to a yellow card. Child persists, card is changed to a yellow card. Child persists again, you're following the school's procedure. So I gave an example of another teacher following a behaviour policy, and I also gave an example of me being able to follow the behaviour policy, and just outlined what my school's expectations were for their behaviour. So I think that is really, really important if you are going to an interview, that you read the school's behaviour management policy, because like I said before, every school has a different policy, has a different strategy that works for their school. So definitely make sure you read the behaviour management policy. The next one was, tell us a sequence of lessons you have taught or seen being taught that you thought were either good or outstanding practice. So again, I made two references to this. I made reference to a teacher who I was the TA for at one point, and she taught a sequence of maths lessons that I thought had gone really, really well, and the children had gained a lot from those lessons. And then I spoke about a sequence of lessons that I had taught during my placement in Year 6, and how I was creative in those lessons in order to get the children to achieve what I wanted them to achieve. I think for me, when I was doing those lessons, it was quite a dry topic. It was about Macbeth. We were doing the poetry in Macbeth in the Three Witches poem. And for me personally, when I was learning about Macbeth and doing Macbeth in secondary school, I found the topic quite dry because my teacher didn't make it interesting for me. So I really wanted to make it interesting. So instead of just doing the bog standard writing and learning about the structure of the poem, I turned it into a drama lesson. And that was over the course of the week. So the children had their example piece. We analysed the style of poetry it was, rhyming couplets, all of those sorts of things. Then collaboratively, the children worked together to create their own version of that piece of poetry, including the archaic language, including the rhyming couplets. And then it came down to acting it, and we recorded it, and then they got to perform it to their peers within the class, which was really quite nice because they gained a lovely understanding of archaic language, they gained an understanding of poetry structure, they gained an understanding of rhyming couplets, and they gained an understanding of performance as well. So they took a lot out of it. So that was my example in terms of a sequence of lessons that I considered to be good because of my creativity, the way I planned it out, and the way I changed it up a little bit. So refer back to a sequence of lessons that you have done that you felt had gone really well. Explain why you thought they'd gone really well. Were you creative? Did you make your own resources? Did you take the learning outside the classroom? Did you go one step further than you really needed to? Make reference to that. Like, be your biggest advocate, because that's what they want. Essentially, they want you to tell them why they should employ you. My last question is anything you would like to ask. Now, in my interview, I think because I already knew the school and I kind of knew what the structures were, what the support would be, I didn't necessarily feel like I needed to ask any questions. However, if you are going to an interview where you don't necessarily know the school as well as you would have done had it been your placement school, then I feel like the questions that you should be asking about are the NQT support. Will there be a mentor? Or will there be an induction plan in place? Will I be with other NQTs? Is there a plan sort of in place for that? If you are applying for a job where it's just class teachers available, you may want to ask what year group you could potentially be in, what kind of support will you have within that year group as well. If you're part of a big MAT, does your NQT induction include other NQTs from within the MAT, or are you just going to be on your own in that school? Those are the sorts of types of questions I potentially would have asked had I been going to a school that I wasn't necessarily familiar about. So that concludes my video about NQT interview questions. Like I said, there's probably plenty of more questions that are out there that employers will potentially ask you, but those are the questions that I remember being asked in my interview, and those are the kind of answers that I gave during my interview. I hope this has been helpful for those of you who are going for your NQT interviews. I know that this is the time of year where interviews are coming up, and obviously the structure of an interview now is slightly different to what it usually would be, but please do not let that phase you or anything like that. I'm sure you've got it in the bag. So if you like this video, please go and give it a thumbs up. Please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye-bye.